most important pieces of infrastructure in the world. More than 500 underwater cables running across the seabeds of the Earth. From emails to bank payments to military communications, these fibre optics carry more than 95% of intercontinental data, estimated to be worth trillions of dollars a day. And they are at the centre of a power struggle between the US and China.
These cables, they're an appetizing target for espionage and surveillance.
Here's how the US and China fight for tech dominance beneath the waves.
There's so much raw information flowing around the world that existing satellite networks and wireless networks can't handle it all,
making underwater fibre optic cables the main data carrier. And when it comes to installing them, the US is among the global leaders. Data from subsea cable analysis firm Telegeography shows that companies from Europe, the US and Japan have installed more than 85% of the cables. But in 2008, China entered the fray.
Policymakers there see it as a very important part of its future economic success. The Chinese government has encouraged a lot of investment in companies that not only provide chips that can build these cables and make the cables themselves, but also make the equipment that processes these massive amounts of data flowing through them.
Established in 2008, cable-laying company Huawei Marine Networks quickly brought China into the ranks of the industry's leaders. One of its most ambitious projects is the so-called Peace Cable, estimated to have cost $425 million. The 15,500 miles long fibre optic network came online in 2022, connecting nearly a dozen countries in Asia, Africa and Europe.
China's investment in the submarine cable industry is part and parcel of the goals that it's seeking to advance through the Belt and Road Initiative, which is to expand its economy, to improve its diplomatic relations and also its economic ties to many countries around the world.
But the Peace Cable could be China's last big undersea cable project.
The U.S. is trying to prevent a small player from becoming a dominant player.
The company was backed by Chinese tech giant Huawei, which became a target of Trump administration sanctions over espionage concerns back in 2019. US officials have said they were worried China's government could use Huawei's technologies for spying. The telecom giant refuted these concerns, but sold its stakes in Huawei Marine Networks to a Chinese company, which rebranded it H&M Tech. This did little, however, to alleviate Washington's fears that underwater cables are increasingly vulnerable to Beijing's espionage.
What U.S. officials are worried about is that if too many Chinese companies play an active role in building and owning and maintaining these cables, they aren't going to be able to stop surveillance of some of this internet traffic, not just between the U.S. and its allies, but among just other countries around the world.
In 2020, with billions of dollars of infrastructure investments at stake, Washington issued policies to exclude Chinese companies from its internet infrastructure.
We're working to ensure that the CCP can't compromise information carried by the undersea cables that connect our country and others to the global internet.
In one case, this US crackdown forced cable builders to drop plans for a direct link between LA and Hong Kong.
This is not a global ban on Chinese equipment being used in any part of the internet. What U.S. officials are trying to do is convince and sway not just national governments, but also private companies that are building certain cables in places they consider very strategically important from doing so without using Chinese parts.
And in 2022, the White House helped American cable-laying giant Subcom secure a $600 million project that H&M Tech had been in the running for. Just like the Chinese-built Peace Cable, the new project will link Southeast Asia with Europe via the Middle East.
This will be essential to meeting the growing demand for reliable, security, high-tech connectivity in 3 key regions of the world.
Subcom and HMN Tech didn't respond to requests for comment on how much their work is influenced by government policy. Despite US efforts, the competition between Washington and Beijing is far from over.
Chinese companies like HMN Tech and SBSS, they're building new ships and they're building new factories to expand their footprint. These ships don't